Good morning and thank you for choosing this live broadcast today, Tuesday, the 7th of February 2023. My name is Beatrice Njeri and this is Morning Extra, the show that brings you to date with the happenings across the country. And later on, we are going to be having newspaper reviews where we are going to be checking at the leading newspaper in the Republic of Kenya. And of course, I'll be joined by one governance and political analyst. But first, let us take a look at stories making headlines. The Kenyan security agencies are alert to ensure that Al-Shabaab militants do not cross into the Kenyan territory. This is according to the Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki while giving the state of security in his first 100 days since being sworn into the office. He added that crime had reduced across the country in the past 3 months and new officers will be deployed to security hotspots across the country immediately to further the battle to the security of our people and their property. Here are the details.
I, Kithure Kindiki, being appointed a Cabinet Secretary of Kenya.
Monday marked the Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kindiki's 100 days in office after being sworn in. While addressing the press on Monday in Nairobi, the Cabinet Secretary stated his accomplishments in the last 3 months, saying that his administration was able to develop a very elaborate terms of reference, which were gazetted to support the task force on police reforms.
These are what we consider in the Ministry of Interior and National Administration as our 10 achievements in 100 days. 1, we were able to develop a very elaborate terms of reference which were gazetted to support the work of the task force that is now working on terms and conditions of service and other reforms in the National Police Service and the Kenya Prison Service. The terms of reference, elaborately drafted, conceived to make sure that we don't leave any room of the reforms that we require in the National Police Service and the Kenya Prison Service.
He further added that his administration has also been able to open Police Leadership Academy, whereby they are working on curriculum that will help introduce a new doctrine in the National Police Service.
Number 2, we have been able to open the Police Leadership Academy, and we are now generating the curricula, working together with the command, the National Police Service, to ensure that we are able to introduce a doctrine, a new, better, modern policing doctrine, especially for those officers who are in command and leadership, as a way of generating a paradigm shift of our policing in conformity with the dictates of the new constitution and the complexity of modern day crime.
Other achievements stated by the Interior Cabinet Secretary were acceleration of the construction of the National Police Hospital in Mbagathi, streamlining of the e-passport issuance procedures, and restoration of supply of passports booklets, initiation of the process of acquisition, and the installation of the Advanced Passenger Information System, e-gates and modern electronic security surveillance at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to enable JKIA retain a global Category 1 airport status. 6. Initiating the policy framework for the introduction of the online registration of birth and death certificates, which is to be launched on 1st March 2023. 7. Initiating the policy framework for the introduction of a unique personal identifier UPI at birth for all newborns. 8. Initiating the policy framework for the introduction of the third generation Smart Digital ID. 9. Clearing a 5-year backlog of determinations of 1,678 applications and 19 appeals of citizenship, permanent residency, and work permits that were pending the determination of the Cabinet Secretary. 10. Reducing the overall rate of crime in the country, including the August-September 2022 crime surge in Nairobi and other urban areas. Hilary Kabila, GBS News.
Soon, if not very soon, mind education will be part of Kenya's school curriculum, if what the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Ezekiel Machogu, said is anything to go by. Machogu, while paying a courtesy call to International Youth Fellowship IYF of Thika Road, was impressed by the mind lecture he received from Reverend Hanmok Lee, who later presented him with a copy of a mind lecture curriculum before attending a Sunday service at the Good News Mission Church's chapel. Machogu expressed that Kenya and Africa had everything but lacks mental conviction, which is the mind, and directed the director of Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, Dr. Charles Ochieng, to see to it that mind lecture is factored in the school curriculum. Let's take a look.
Our Secretary General from South Korea.
Your school-going child will soon learn mind education if the subject becomes part of Kenya's curriculum. Education Cabinet Secretary Honorable Ezekiel Mashogu has said. Mashogu said this when he met International Youth Fellowship Secretary General Reverend Dr. Hanmok Lee at its African headquarters of Thika Road. Mashogu was reacting after attending a lecture by his host, who did a presentation on how the mind influences the growth and well-being of a person and the development of a society.
Dream makes you to overcome everything. Not having the dream is the problem.
Today, I had the opportunity of listening to something that really, if we all have the advantage of listening and making sure that we have it in our individual lives, it will totally transform us and also transform this country. And that is mind. That is mind.
The CS was accompanied by the director of Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, Dr. Charles Ochieng, who was apprehensive about the proposal to factor mind education into Kenya's curriculum.
I'm with the director of KICD, Professor Ngondo here, and my brothers that we came with, you can stand up, those we came with. When you see the director here, the purpose also is, how can we...
Before him was Youth, Sport and Arts Cabinet Secretary Dr. Babuna Mwamba, who visited in November and shared the same sentiment on the need to start mind lectures in Kenyan institutions. After him came Her Excellency Pastor Dorcas Rigathi Dindinyoro, Member of Parliament for Kiharu constituency, serving a second term, among others. Mashogu has promised to advise the president on the need to include mind education and promised to accompany the president in the most awaited visit to the IYF institutions on the 19th of March this year.
Thank you. I will be here on the 19th, God willing, and
President William Ruto formed a task force to collect views on the implementation of the competency-based curriculum, which is yet to file a report to advise the government on the same. And as these things stand, this might be appropriate time to factor the mind education as a subject before CBC recommendation by the task force is submitted to the president. Mind education is a distillation of all the global experiences to a unique curriculum that both uncovers the world of the heart that everyone possesses and helps people tap into their potential to change the world, starting with themselves. Reverend Dr. Oxo Park is the founder of the International Mind Education Institute, which was founded in 1995. He is also the founder of the International Youth Fellowship and the senior pastor at the Good News Gangnam Church in Seoul, South Korea. Dr. Park has authored over 50 sermon counseling and mindset building books. He credits his invention in his mind education curriculum to the principles of the heart he studied in the Bible. His work and experience in the youth development, educational initiative, and counseling have garnered him several honorary doctorate degrees.
Dr. Park, what we wanted to do, this is a portable plaque that you could take to your office, that you could take to your church. We thank God for you.
Beatrice Njeri, GBS News. Parents whose children are joining Form 1 this year have lamented over the high cost of living that has made them dig deep into their pockets to cater for their children's needs. The parents who spoke to a journalist at Fanaka School yesterday said most of items at the bookshop, uniform shops and supermarket had the prices increased compared to the previous year. Nashipai Koina lamented that the cost of living has gone high as most of the items she bought had prices hiked compared to last year. Kevin Ongera, a teacher at Fanaka Secondary, said many parents have complained of high cost of books and transportation, unlike in the previous year. However, he said many students had enrolled in the school, unlike the previous year, where few students enrolled. Ms. Celestina Lumumba said the challenges that the girl child face is teenage pregnancies, early marriages, and female genital mutilation that make them drop out of school. She called on the girls joining high school to be anti-FGM ambassadors at home so that they can act as role models to many girls that are exposed to the culture.
Tangu asubuhi kaleta mtoto wa form 1 na tumekuwa wasasi wengi sana na watoto pia. So hata kuchukua watoto inachukua muda kwa sababu sasa bado wanaendelea kupanga laini. So gharama saa hii iko juu. Unakuta vitu zingine last time ilikuwa pesa ya chini, unakuta iko juu. Pia kufika mpaka shule ni gharama kubwa sana kufika shule. Kama ulikuwa unalipa taksi 200, unakuta unalipa 400. So kila kitu imekuwa tofauti sasa kabisa.
Tofauti sana kwa sababu kwanza naona ni kama gharama ya maisha imepanda juu. Nikiangalia upande wa vitabu ni bei ghali mno, na labda requirements ambazo form 1 wanaingia nazo pia naweza sema ni bei ghali. Alafu ukiangalia na pia nauli kwa sababu ya bei ya mafuta unapata kwamba imeenda juu sana, na kidogo naona wazazi wamefinyika mwaka huu. So labda kwa maoni yangu ni kwamba kama kungekuwa na kitu wangefanya adjustment, alafu tuone labda ikue ni kitu wazazi wanaweza mudu hivi.
Tuna changamoto zaidi ambapo tunapata ukeketaji wa wasichana umekidhiri sana, umekita mizizi Narok County, na ambapo wanafunzi wetu wasichana wakija shuleni tunazidi kuwafunza jinsi ya kukuja shuleni, wapate masomo bora shuleni, ambapo tunawaambia wakienda nyumbani wazidi kueleza wazazi wao jinsi masomo ni bora. Kwa hivyo wanajitenga na yale ambayo yanaendelea nyumbani kwa kuja shuleni.
In line with the government 100% transition, Tenwek High School Chief Principal Mutali Chisebe has said that they will ensure that all the Form 1 learners who received letters of admission are all in school. While terming yesterday's reporting of the new students a success, Chisebe said that the turn-up is 95%, saying that they put up an elaborate process to ensure the students are admitted without any hindrance. He said that even though some parents were experiencing financial challenges and they had to continue the admission of their children because of the tough economic times, the chief principal also said if they will experience the cases of the needy students who lack school fees, they will allow them to learn because the young people play a critical role in the safeguarding of the future of this country. The Sabah said they will use all the means, if it means looking for them in their homes, to ensure the students are admitted to school and report to them. He revealed that they agreed that there is a management of the school to at least assist some of the few needy students who do not have the capacity to pay school fees.
Shule hii ni ya kitaifa, tunatarajia kuwasajili wanafunzi 680. Na ninavyozungumza hivi leo, wanafunzi tulikuwa tunawatarajia wafike mapema na walifanya hivyo. Wengi wazazi walifika katika shule hii saa 10 alfajiri. Na kile ambacho tulifanya ni kwamba tulihakikisha kwamba tuwashughulikie karibu kama walimu na washikadau wengine, kuhakikisha kwamba wazazi kutoka sehemu mbalimbali tunawashughulikia kulingana na utaratibu ambao tumeweka. Nashukuru utaratibu ambao umeweka umewafaa wazazi, na hii ndio sababu hata unaona kwamba baadhi ya wanafunzi ambao walisajiliwa asubuhi wako nami hapa, wamevalia sare zao rasmi, wako tayari kuingia darasani. Kijumla nataka niseme kwamba hali ya uchumi ndio hivyo, wazazi wamejibidisha, na nimeona ya kwamba wengi wao kwa hakika wamelipia wanafunzi wao karo na hata kuwanunulia vifaa vinavyohitajika hapa shuleni. Kwa hivyo kijumla nataka nisema kwamba nimeona tu wanafunzi wachache ambao huenda wana changamoto za karo, na sisi kama walimu, sisi kama wazazi tuna wajibu kuhakikisha kwamba tunafuata sera za serikali, sera za Wizara ya Elimu, kuhakikisha kwamba mwanafunzi anasajiliwa shuleni, swala la karo na mambo mengine yaje baadaye. Afadhali mwanafunzi abaki shuleni kisha shughuli zingine zifuate baadaye. Tunaelewa hali ilivyo, uchumi ni mbaya. Wakati mwingine ukimwambia mwanafunzi arudi nyumbani, mwanafunzi huyo anaweza kuishi kule milele. Kwa hivyo njia pekee ya kuhakikisha kwamba hawa wanafunzi ni kwa wasajili ili waweze kuanza kusoma. Na ukweli wa mambo ni kwamba ukiangalia nyuso za wanafunzi ambao wamefika hapa shuleni kutoka sehemu mbalimbali za nchi hii, wanafunzi hao wana matumaini makubwa. Ukiangalia nyuso za wazazi wana matumaini makubwa. Hii ni rasilimali muhimu, na tujua kwamba Wizara ya Elimu pia ina sera ambayo inasema kwamba ni muhimu tuwe na 100% ya wanafunzi kutoka katika shule za msingi hadi shule za upili. Hivi sasa ninavyozungumza, tuliowasajili hivi sasa leo hii ni 95%. Baadhi ya wazazi ambao wamekuwa
kwetu nyumbani ni Teso, lakini nilitoka Nairobi saa 9 usiku. Nilifika hapa mwendo wa saa 3, lakini kwa sababu sio mara yangu ya kwanza kupeleka mtoto katika admission first year, lakini kwa sababu ya ile utaratibu lazima tuifuatilie, kwa sababu kunahitajika umakinifu sana katika kuadmiti mtoto. Upande wa serikali tungeomba sana, kwa sababu baadhi ya wazazi wengine wanaweza ndio, lakini baadhi ya wazazi sana wanahangaika. Kwa sababu nimekuwa pale, nimeona wazazi wengi wanakuja na motorbike, saa zingine mwingine amesahau hii, mwingine hana hii, mwingine nimeona amekuja na kufuli moja. Hiyo ni kuonyesha ya kwamba mzazi angependa kupeleka mtoto shule, lakini uwezo ya kifedha iko chini.
Banditry has lately been a matter of national concern here in Kenya. In a bid to bring the vice to a tail end, the government has established a high-level land and air team. Speaking while addressing the press in Nairobi yesterday, the Interior and National Administration Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki revealed that the team will be pursuing and monitoring bandits and their operations in the affected regions, adding that the schools that were shut down due to the banditry were already opened and will never be reshut due to the same reasons. Here is more of the same.
For years, banditry has caused loss of many lives and property in the northern part of Kenya, to an extent of being a national concern. Speaking while addressing the press in Nairobi on Monday, the Interior and National Administration Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki revealed that the government has established a high-level land and air team whose core mandate will be to pursue and monitor bandits and the operations in the affected regions.
To ensure success of this national endeavor, I have established a high-level counter-banditry land and air team, LAT, complete with a situation room at the ministry headquarters to oversight daily progress in this war. In the immediate, we must silence the guns in the north of our country. But in the short and long term, the government will roll out a Marshall Plan to open up this area with socio and economic infrastructure projects such as water projects, road projects, hospitals, health facilities, and schools as the surest way of correcting historical developmental imbalances in our country.
According to Professor Kindiki, in the last 3 months, his administration has recovered 60% of stolen livestock in the 10 most affected counties, and security agencies are still on the lookout for the rest of 40%.
In the past 3 months, 60% of all livestock stolen across the 10 most affected counties, namely West Pokot, Laikipia, Meru, Turkana, Garissa, Samburu, Marsabit, Kitui, Elgeyo Marakwet, and Tana River, have been recovered. The only challenge is that they have been recovered in bits and pieces, because what these criminal gangs do is immediately they strike and steal the livestock. They divide it into small numbers and disappear in different directions. And that is why it is seldom that our security forces will be able to recover the stolen herd all at once. And our security agencies are tracing the missing 40% of stolen livestock, even as we continue to monitor the meat supply chain across urban areas in the country to disrupt the existing criminal food chain.
The CS further added that the government has reopened 15 schools that were shut down due to banditry attacks and is working to ensure that these schools will never be shut for the same reasons.
We have also reopened 15 schools that had been closed due to bandit attacks. It is possible, fellow Kenyans, to end this menace permanently.
In his 100 days in office, the former Tharaka Nithi senator has also stated that he held consultative meetings with citizens, leaders and stakeholders from different parts of the country to discuss the security challenges facing Kenya. Hilary Kabila, GBS News.
Kenyan travelers have a reason to smile after Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki announced that they can now get new passports. In a statement detailing the ministry's progress in the past 3 months, Kindiki said they have addressed the delay in issuance of new passports. He added that the broken passport printer that had become a headache for Kenyans looking to acquire the e-passports had been repaired. Here are the details.
The processing of passport has been expedited to conform to international standard. The ministry is targeting to triple the number of passport holders in the next 5 years. This, if successful, will see 10 million Kenyan holding passport from the current 3.5 million. This is according to Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kindiki Kithure. Kindiki spoke at Harambee House where he gave his 100 days office workbook so far.
A better and more efficient printer. All eligible applicants of the Kenyan passport are hereby advised that passport booklets are now available in sufficient numbers, and processing of passports has been expedited to conform to international standards. The ministry has set a target of tripling the number of Kenyan passport holders from the current 3.5 million to 10 million within the next 10 years.
On the approval of citizenship application, the CS said last week he approved 1,698 applications for between year 2018 to 2022, explaining that before the statutes of the 2010 Constitution, Kenya did not allow dual citizenship. Approved applications for children and spouses of Kenyan citizens were 815, while 75 applications were made by lawful residents.
Came into office on 27th of October 2022, I found a backlog of applications for citizenship spanning 5 years: 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And that backlog consisted 1,698 applications for the years I have just cited. Between the time I came to office and the 27th of January, another 421 applications had already been processed, gone through the various institutional vettings, and
Eunice Mugo reporting for GBS News.
A local company, Powersport Pelletizers, has set up a plant that produces pellets from sugarcane bagasse in Kakamega. The pellets, which are smokeless, are then used as fuels in jikos, burners, and can act as an alternative to charcoal and firewood, thereby preserving trees from being felled. Chief Executive Officer of the company, Alfonso Acebal, on Sunday noted that the plans are underway to set up similar plant with a higher capacity to produce more than 2,000 tons of pellets from about 4,500 to 5,000 tons of sugar bagasse, being that currently the company produces 100 tons of pellets from about 200 tons of sugar bagasse. Here is the report.
A local company, Powersport Pelletizers, has set up a plant that produces pellets from sugarcane bagasse in Kakamega. The pellets, which are smokeless, are then used as fuels in jikos, burners, and can act as an alternative to charcoal and firewood, thereby preserving trees from being felled. Chief Executive Officer of the company, Alfonso, on Sunday noted that plans are underway to set up a similar plant with a higher capacity to produce more than 2,000 tons of pellets from about 4,500 to 5,000 tons of sugar bagasse, being that currently the company produces 100 tons of pellets from about 200 tons of sugar bagasse. The company sells 1 kilogram of pellets for between 21 shillings and 25 shillings.
We are producing 100 tons per month, and the new factory will be able to produce 2,000 tons per month of pellets, which could be around 4,000, 5,000 tons of bagasse.
According to Mr. Alfonso, the raw materials, which is sugarcane bagasse, are in plenty, and once the sister plant is set up, it will offer a big relief to sugar companies which dispose of excess sugarcane bagasse. Additionally, the company is finalizing research to come up with locally made industrial jikos which use pellets as fuel for supply to schools to minimize use of firewood.
Here in Western Kenya, there is a lot of sugarcane factories. They have a lot of bagasse, let's say. And we thought that this was a very good raw material for us to make the pellets instead of making out from wood.
Once obtained from the sugar factories, bagasse has about 50% moisture. It is thus fed into a rotary drum dryer to dry it to about 8% moisture content. The resulting product is then crushed and fed through the pelletizer section, where mills convert and mix with the binder into pellets. They are then cooled down and packaged into bags of 5 kilograms, 30 kilograms, 50 kilograms, and 500 kilograms bags, especially for industries. Reporting for GBS News, I am James Odhiambo.
And now to international news. U.S. fighter jet shot down a suspected Chinese spy blimp above the Atlantic Ocean of the South Carolina coast Saturday, ending a three-day spectacle that dominated headlines and created an international incident. The operation took place at the direction of President Joe Biden in the U.S. airspace as the balloon drifted over the water. Senior defense officials say that the balloon was successfully drowned by a single missile. Here are the details.
Downing the large, slow-moving balloon over the ocean reduced the risk of falling debris causing damage or casualties, a concern that military commanders had earlier in the week. As it drifted eastward across the country, Biden said he gave the U.S. military authority to take down the alleged surveillance balloon on Wednesday, with orders to shoot it once there was no longer fear of endangering Americans on the ground.
On Wednesday, when I was briefed on the balloon, I ordered the Pentagon to shoot it down on Wednesday as soon as possible. They decided, without doing damage to anyone on the ground, they decided that the best time to do that was as it got over water outside within the 12-mile limit. They successfully took it down, and I want to compliment our aviators who did it, and we'll have more to report on this a little later. Thank you.
The U.S. military tracked the balloon's flight path above the Aleutian Island in Alaska last Saturday, then through Canada on Monday, and ultimately into the United States of Idaho on Tuesday. Officials said Biden asked the Pentagon to come up with options regarding the balloon, and the military considered shooting it down Wednesday as it traveled over Montana. The state is home to Malmstrom Air Force Base, one of the 3 bases that host nuclear-tipped intercontinental ballistic missile fields. In the end, military commanders recommended not to attempt a shoot-down out of fears that such an act could create falling debris endangering people on the ground.
The fact is, we know that it's a surveillance balloon, and I'm not going to be able to be more specific than that. We do know that the balloon has violated U.S. airspace and international law, which is unacceptable.
Biden gave the military the green light to down it as soon as it was safe. News of the balloon present over the U.S. came late Thursday, when the Pentagon said it was monitoring it while denouncing the Chinese government for illegally penetrating American airspace. On Friday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken canceled a trip to Beijing hours before he was set to depart, underscoring how seriously the White House views the incident.
Once we detected the balloon, the U.S. government acted immediately to protect against the collection of sensitive information. We communicated with the PRC government directly through multiple channels about this issue.
Blinken will have been the highest-ranking Biden administration official to visit China and the first U.S. Secretary of State to travel to Beijing in 6 years. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that the shoot-down was lawful and proper given intrusion into American airspace. Leno Njok, GBS News.
And now moving to the sports, the beach soccer, which has for years been played at the Malindi Beach front, not only promotes soccer but helps in preventing youths from getting into drugs and other irresponsible behaviors. They say the trouble started after they were evicted from the Buntwani Beach football pitch and forced to set up their own ground after the management of Buntwani Waterfront Park claimed that the area was meant for tourists. Here are the details.
The concern is that whenever there are tournaments, cartels take over the task at their expense and take advantage of the youth to control all the funds allocated, leaving them with just small amount of cash that cannot sustain them. Jamal Hassan, the organizing secretary of Malindi Talent Beach Soccer, saying that they are the founders of the 2 beach football pitches at the beach front, one which has now been turned into a park for private business.
Kwa majina naitwa Jamal Hassan, ni organizing secretary katika Malindi Talent Beach Soccer. Pamoja na ndugu yangu Swalahu, yeye ndio chairman katika kupeleka mpira hapa baharini. Sisi ni wanzilishi wa viwanja viwili. Hiki kimoja na kile ambacho sasa kimekuwa si kiwanja, ni parking ya watu ya kufanya biashara zao. Tulifanya kule kwa muda mrefu uwanja, tukacheza vizuri sana. Baada ya uwanja kuchukuliwa ukawa ni uwanja wa mtu binafsi.
Speaking at the Boaba Beach Soccer grounds, he said for years they were playing beach soccer at the now Waterfront Park, which when the project kicked off, it became a private property and the ground only is opened when there are tournaments. He's saying that they have so far done 7 tournaments in the last 6 months.
Sasa hii ni tournament 7 tumefanya baada ya miezi 6. Kwa uwezo Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala ametujalia tumefanya tournament 7. Na kila siku Mwenyezi Mungu anachagua kiongozi kwa wakati wake. Mungu amechagua kiongozi Samuel Ruto kuwa rais wa Kenya, kwamba ni rais yeye wa wanyonge, ni rais yeye wa kusaidia vijana. Malengo makuu yetu ya kufanya uwanja uchezewe na vijana, kwamba vijana wanaingia katika mihadharati, na njia pekee ya kuwasaidia vijana wasiingie katika mihadharati ni kufanya mambo kama haya. Tunashukuru pia OCS pamoja na OC Crime. Tukifanya tournament tunawalika pia vile na kuja kuwapatia mawaidha ili vijana wawe na tabia nzuri, waache katika tabia mbaya. Vile tunashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala kwa muda huu wa miezi 6 kusimamia huu uwanja. Kuna vijana 5 ambao walikuwa katika mambo ya drugs wakawacha. Kuna vijana 10 ambao walikataa kwenda shule baada ya kuwafuata pamoja na wazee na kamati yetu ya kusimamia Malindi Talent Beach Soccer Tournament. Tukafuata wanafunzi wakaweza kurudi zao shule.
Salah Ali, the chairman of Malindi Talent Beach Soccer, saying the county and national government are not aware of the injustices being done in the beach soccer. He said at the county level, whenever tournaments for inter-counties beach soccer are arranged, the authorities do not come to the ground to consult the management of the teams, but the funding are allocated to the cartels who do not even know football, who end up mistreating the players.
Dhulumu makubwa yanayopitika. Katikati ya beach soccer kuna pazia nyeusi. Serikali bado haijajua. Mpira wa beach soccer wa national na mpira wa beach soccer wa Kilifi County. First nitaanza wa Kilifi County. Mpira wa Kilifi County beach soccer inatoka juu Kilifi County. Kabada waje kwa ground waone wasimamizi ni wapi wa arrange international friend ya beach soccer ya count Lamu, Mombasa, Kilifi. Inapokuja ile wanapatiwa mabopari, anapatiwa mtu investor, hata mpira hajui. Investor ndio anapatiwa jukumu, kila kitu anatiliwa yeye. Wanafanya vile wanavyotaka. Wanawadhulumu watoto, mapesa wanatia wao mfukoni, na watoto hawana la kusema, wanapewa alfu wanaenda zao. Kwa nini wapewe investor? Ni lazima waziri wa sports wa Kilifi aje kwa ground ya mayouth ya community Baobab, waone wasimamizi ni wapi. Ikitokea international friend wawaweke mbele waweze kuendeleza football.
He said without beach soccer, it is very easy for youth to be engaged in drug abuse, crime, which is a challenge.
Watoto wameingia kwenye mihadharati mwaka na nusu, mwenye bangi, mwenye mongoka, mwenye shashamale. Tukatuza Bongo community, tukaamua tuitengeze hii ground ya zamani ya Aston Villa. Ndio kama hivi mnavyoiona. Na tukatiliwa na nguvu kusaidiwa na Mheshimiwa Amina. Na sasa hivi beach soccer aina yoyote inaotokezea, hima ni ya international friend ya Kilifi County ama international, tunapendelea hii ndio iwe ground ya kuchaguliwa national team. Sio matapeli, na mkifanya machezo nitawataja kwa majina.
Ali Zakaria, a beach soccer player, saying they are faced with many challenges from being chased from the Buntuani Beach football ground to the new ground.
Kwa majina naitwa Ali Zakaria maarufu Nyara. Ambao tunapitia hapa Malindi kwetu ni misukusuko mikubwa sana. Tulikuwa na ground kule ya bisoka, tulifukuzwa kule. Sasa tuko na ground hapa Baobab Youth ambao ilitetewa sana na wazee wetu ambao ndo wanaendesha sasa hivi. Katika mwaka mzima sisi tuliingia kwa mihadarati wengine, lakini iliporudi ligi yetu hapa ya bisoka, tunashukuru Mungu tumeacha kila kitu sasa hivi.
The organizing secretary revealed that there are 3 types of teams, including under 15 and under 18.
Na tatu. Tuko na under 15, tuko na under 18 na tuko na over age. Takriban kama over age tuko na timu 16, under 18 tuko na timu 12 na under 15 tuko na timu 13. Zote tunacheza, tunaenda kiwango mbali ili kwa sababu tuna mpango na mradi kwamba tunaomba serikali kuna ule upande wa pili kule tutakufanya uwanja mwili. Kwa sababu hapa ni uwanja mmoja wa over age, kisha kule itakuwa ni uwanja mwingine wa under 15 na under 18 kwa kule.
Reporting for GBS TV, I'm McDonald.
Manchester United is conducting its own process before determining the return of Mason Greenwood to the club. Greenwood, who was arrested last year due to rape cases and assaults, had all the charges against him dropped on Thursday. On the other hand, Wolves escaped the relegation in style after they crushed Liverpool at 3-0 at Molineux Stadium on Saturday. Jurgen Klopp's problems got worse as they conceded another loss this season, and Everton recorded their first win since October last year as they won 1-0 over the leaders Arsenal on Saturday. McDonald with the full report.
Harry Kane became Spurs' all-time goal scorer as he scored his 267th goal on a hand-earned win against Manchester City yesterday. Hojbjerg capitalized from Rodri mistake, setting a pass to the English striker who did not hesitate. City struck the crossbar in the first half, stoppage time, through Riyad Mahrez, making attack after an attack, but to no avail. They remain in the second place with 5 points below Arsenal, while Spurs remain just a point below fourth place, Newcastle. Jurgen Klopp's problems get worse as he conceded another loss against home team Wolves on Saturday. Wolves got out of the relegation in style as they crushed Liverpool 3-0. Joel Matip on goal put Wolves ahead before Craig Dawson doubling the scores on the first half. The visitors pushed hard on the second half, but it was Ruben Neves who sealed the win for Wolves at Molineux. Arsenal too lost to Everton as Everton recorded their first win since October last year. 10-man Manchester United crushed Palace 2-1, while Chelsea went on a goalless draw with Fulham. Manchester United midfielder Mason Greenwood on that day all charges against him dropped. Greenwood was arrested last year following rape charges and assault. The 21-year-old, still on Manchester books, is yet to return to United, with the club conducting further internal investigations, noting the decision of the Crown Prosecution Service that all charges have been dropped. The club will further conduct its own process before determining its next steps. Greenwood has been out of the pitch in a year after playing his last match in January 2022 against West Ham. Reporting for GBS TV, I'm McDonald.
Once again, thank you for joining this live broadcast. And of course, we are just going straight to the newspaper review. So I'll be looking at the Daily Nation, the Star, the Standard, and of course, the stories making headlines in the newspapers as well. And I'll be joined by one political analyst. But first, let's take a quick commercial break. Welcome to Mahanaim International High School. Are you worried about the character of your child? Mahanaim is the best Christian and character building school and offer British National Curriculum, IGCSE O-Level and GCE A-Level and mixed day and boarding school. For more inquiry, call 0710 111 333.
We need to have social praises for our older people, and that brought me to having a center, this center where older people come together and they share their experiences.
The founder for an organization called Imarisha Jamii.
I'm the founder, Karika. Karika is an acronym of Kenyan Aged People Require Information, Knowledge and Advancement.
What prompted you for you to think about the elderly and how they are aging and how your organization is helping them to age with dignity?
We are all human beings created as social animals.
And some of them are depression, and Mr. Elijah would agree with me, it is common because he has covered a broad group of people.
Your organization, is it a place like the home of the elderly, or it's an organization where they just come in, talk, socialize, make friends, because even them want to make friends?
It's a daycare center where they come every day. How do we gift our older people? How do we surprise them?
How the government should come in, and Mr. Jack wanted to support on the same.
Yes. Taken to Sunday schools, and we were taught of Ephesians chapter 6. Ye children, obey your parents. This is the first commandment with a promise.
Welcome to Mahanaim International High School. Are you worried about the character of your child? Mahanaim is the best Christian and character building school and offer British National Curriculum, IGCSE O-Level and GCE A-Level and mixed day and boarding school. For more inquiry, call 0710 111 333.
We need to have social praises for our older people, and that brought me to having a center, this center where older people come together and they share their experiences.
The founder for an organization called Imarisha Jamii.
I'm the founder, Karika. Karika is an acronym of Kenyan Aged People Require Information, Knowledge and Advancement.
What prompted you for you to think about the elderly and how they are aging and how your organization is helping them to age with dignity?
We are all human beings created as social animals.
And some of them are depression, and Mr. Elijah would agree with me, it is common because he has covered a broad group of people.
Your organization, is it a place like the home of the elderly, or it's an organization where they just come in, talk, socialize, make friends, because even them want to make friends?
It's a daycare center where they come every day. How do we gift our older people? How do we surprise them?
How the government should come in, and Mr. Jack wanted to support on the same.
Yes. Taken to Sunday schools, and we were taught of Ephesians chapter 6. Ye children, obey your parents. This is the first commandment with a promise.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Extra, and of course, this segment will bring you to date with the latest by taking us through the news headlines today. Of course, in the leading newspapers, and I'm joined live by one governance and political analyst, Mr. Chapesa, and together we will be going through the newspapers and reviewing them for you. And good morning, Mr. Chapesa. How are you?
Good morning, Beatrice. Pleasure having this session with you this morning.
Yes. Actually, it has been some time before, of course, you joined this live broadcast, and we'll just join in and see what is happening. Let's take a look at the Daily Nation and what is making headlines in the Daily Nations as well. Where we see Raila's own goal on IEBC, where we see former Prime Minister rallied his allies to support the IEBC bill, that is, of course, 2019, which gave the Parliamentary Service Commission many slots. Of course, politicians who are coalescing around then Deputy President William Ruto opposed the move, saying that it was giving Mr. Kenyatta Jubilee Party and Mr. Odinga or the Democratic Movement sweeping powers on the recruitment of the commission, that the decision has returned to haunt Mr. Raila Odinga. And of course, that is what he has said on the same. And he did say that we will not allow Ruto and his psychopaths to single-handedly appoint the IEBC commissioners. Of course, we did see that has been making headlines in the rallies that have been happening, Mr. Chapesa. And now we have the goal that he has. Now, we did know that he was against the current president, of course, one-handedly appointing these IEBC commissioners. Maybe you can tell us, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, I've also been having the same question for some time, because all along, Raila Odinga has been involved in choosing IEBC officials, particularly commissioners. Starting from the time of Kibaki, even to Uhuru, has been actively involved in choosing some of these IEBC commissioners. But still, nothing has come to his favor, including this last one where Ruto was complaining that, they are choosing people who might favor them. But still, things didn't work. So, this issue of IEBC, to me, it will not, even if Raila will be given also an opportunity to choose, still things may not go his way as he thinks. Though it is for the purpose of confidence and credibility, all stakeholders should be given a hand to choose IEBC commissioners, but it should not be chosen on the basis of having certain tensions of favor from the commissioners. It should be for the purpose of carrying out a credible election in this country. Yes,
and now we have another headlines where don't turn away learners who lack fees or uniform, says CS Machogu. And now we see Form 1 pain as schools defy state, where some principals have ignored Ministry of Education's guidelines by turning schools into money minting businesses, exploiting parents through extra prices of items such as uniforms, and imposing extra levies and other hidden charges. That is, of course, on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation as well. And Mr. Chapesa, you'll agree with me, there has been a lot of cries on the cost of living, with some parents saying that this year is more higher than the last year. Maybe based on your observation, maybe if you do have a candidate yourself, what was your experience?
Beatrice's experience is really very, very difficult one. And it's as if this education system is meant to devour parents on a serious note. The CS for Education just giving a statement that doesn't carry strong authority will not help for matters concerning the schools. One, if this directive could be accompanied by action, it will help matters. But just giving statements which cannot change anything is a mind game. It's a mind game to massage the pains of the parents, because schools are increasing school fees blatantly, even without engaging parents who are stakeholders. Last term or last academic year, school fees were different. This academic year, school fees has increased, and parents are not involved. And here, the minister is making just a lousy statement, that is not having any impact at all. Yes, for sure. Our minister has just come into the office recently, and maybe hasn't learned much. But if I was to advise him, he could have brought all stakeholders together: the school, the teachers, or school management, and parents together, and discuss and come up with an agreeable mode of operation, other than just giving a statement, a political statement that is not being affected by the teachers. Because if you can ask me, have the teachers heed his word? Have they changed anything? Has they stopped demanding for full school uniform, for school fees payment and uniform, whatever? Nothing has happened. That shows that his statement was not even taken seriously by the school authorities. So I believe he should bring teachers and parents together as stakeholders in this education sector, discuss and come up with a solution that is favorable to both parents and schools.
Thank you very much. And of course, you can see down there 2 students carrying, of course, what will be a lot of what will, of course, they will use, they will be dependent on in the next 4 years. And we can see there, and I do wish them a success even as they're going to the Form 1 and, of course, going to greater heights of life. And now to other headlines where you see Kenya's public debt crossed the 9 trillion mark for the first time last December. That is, of course, on the back page. What do you take of that?
Kenya has become a borrowing country. Debts everywhere, and this is cascading to individual lives, where also ordinary Kenyans are borrowing to survive, are borrowing money to survive. Every Kenyan is now getting indebted. Debts everywhere. Now the spirit of debt has affected the country. I think the president was planning well to make sure that everybody pays taxes, not ordinary people paying heavy taxes and the rich are waived from paying taxes. If this rich, the wealth of this country, will pay taxes accordingly, then our country will have sufficient resources to manage its affairs. But if we don't pay taxes, we shall continue borrowing and heavily getting indebted, which is not good, for this country. During Kibaki's regime, he encouraged people to pay taxes, and people indeed heeded his word and and they paid taxes. And that's why we reduced on the issues of debt, and we progressed, and we developed, and we saw how Kenya was rising. But now, because of huge debts, inflation has gone up. Our shilling has been devalued because of borrowing. I think it's high time we reduced on the issue of borrowing, so that we utilize our own resources that we have by paying taxes and having priorities set well, so that the money that the government collects is put on priority programs. Yes, please.
And on other headlines, we have another success, of course, health milestone, where we see doctors give conjoined twins new lease of life after delicate 15-hour surgery. That is, of course, on page 6 as well. And, of course, do make sure you dig in and see that as well. And now we have a disaster that was caused, the earthquake that killed over 2,300 in Turkey and Syria. Also, the most powerful earthquake to strike Turkey and Syria, to over 2,300 people yesterday, sparkling frantic rescue efforts. It was felt as far away as Greenland. That is, of course, on page 24. Maybe if you do have a word of encouragement or maybe condolences, because this is indeed very, very sad.
Yes, it was a very huge loss. 2,000 people losing their lives. It's very, very unfortunate, Beatrice. I pray that God comforts all the people in Turkey, particularly those who have lost their beloved ones, that God comforts them, and also request international communities to step in and support all the bereaved families, so that together they can pick up from the loss that has come their way, so that they may feel comforted.
And now moving to the Standard, we see Kenyan wins round 1 battle with Facebook. That is on national page 20. And of course, 2,300 dead in Turkey earthquake. That is what we have indeed discussed about from the previous newspaper. And CEOs cut jobs on dim economic outlook. That is, of course, on matters business. This matter of the economic status of this country is not just affecting the parents of the school-going children, it's also affecting business. And of course, a lot of people can feel a pinch where we have seen the cut of jobs on these economic places. And of course, we see on another headlines the long wait for a non-existent fertilizer. And particularly, there has been a talk about this fertilizer that was reduced the prices, and they did pay, where it says the government has told the delegated farmers to pay 3,500 for a 50 kg bag of fertilizer, but almost 6 months later, the fertilizer is yet to reach them. That is, of course, on page 8. Now, Mr. Chapesa, we do understand that farmers do work on a time frame, maybe planting on January or February, and this fertilizer is being delayed. What effect is that, and what is happening?
Yes, Beatrice, I come from a farming region, and I think as much as the government is making an effort to bring down the cost of food production in this country, but the fertilizer distribution is not being managed well, because I wish that it was brought to the smallest units of our regions, but fertilizer being stocked in major major stores, which are also far from being reached by the common people, is very, very unfair. For example, in Western region, it is being put in Eldoret. So a parent from, for example, Chebutais, traveling to Eldoret, takes so many hours. Reaching there, the queue is so long. And at times they don't get this fertilizer. They spend a night there. Oh, this is expenditure. By the time they get this fertilizer, the amount of money they have spent is equal to the fertilizer they can buy, or it used to cost formerly. So if this government can take fertilizer to the smallest units, even to chief camps, so that the chiefs help in distributing this fertilizer. It will be easier, it will be cheaper, and it will be effective. Other than keeping fertilizer in few stores that exist in this country. It will also create bureaucracy. People who will bribe to get this fertilizer, people with money. And if you don't have money to bribe, you will not get fertilizer. It will create bureaucracy because of scrambling, people scrambling to get fertilizer, which is not even easy. It will create difficulties for people to access cheap fertilizer, which may not as well meet the desired goal by the government. Yes.
And now to other headlines, we see how to deal with multiple pregnancies, where we see for mothers, multiple pregnancies can sound scary. It can be an overwhelming time for new mothers to discover she's carrying not two, but more babies. That is, of course, on page 12. We did see a case in Nakuru, if I'm not wrong, where, of course, a mother did have 5 kids, and, of course, sadly, they were lost later on. Do make sure to dig in and see, just in case you're faced with this situation. And now, Raila's movement, this is, of course, the biggest headline in the Standard. Raila's movement signals end of Azimio. I see opposition leader Raila Odinga has formed a caucus called Movement of Defense on Democracy, which echoes his well-known political trick of dumping and forming new allies after every election cycle. Will it gain currency like those before it? Mr. Chapesa.
I've been seeing Raila moving around with other partners like Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper, Jeremiah Kioni of Jubilee, and also Eugene Wamalwa of DAP. Because they are moving together, I don't know how it will be dumping. But history in this country has it that in every election cycle, political parties change because of varied interests. So I believe and again, strategies also change. Strategies will change. The president had come up with a good proposal to have 2 powerful political parties, and he's also breaking down the Kenya Kwanza and coming up one formidable group. I also believe that Azimio la Umoja will also do the same, so that we have 2 major political parties. But also, so many political parties have been emerging because of regional interest. I wish that these regional interests are catered for in these 2 major political parties, other than having tribal parties or briefcase parties of this kind. Now, with Raila Odinga, his strategy is to, first of all, diminish the popularity of Kenya Kwanza by exposing all the weaknesses or inadequacies or lackings or non-performances that Kenya Kwanza may have. And through this, he may need his partners, because if he breaks his partners, how will he go to Kambani, where Kalonzo Musyoka is a kingpin? How will he go to Central, where Jeremiah Kioni leads Jubilee? How will he go to Western, where his partner Eugene Wamalwa is? So I think he needs all these partners, other than breaking them and scattering them. It will also affect him politically. Yes.
And now we have tax wars escalate as MP orders Treasury for records, where we see although the tax exemptions and waivers are not illegal, Kenya Kwanza wants all records of the same from 2018 to 2022 tabled in Parliament, while Azimio blasted Ruto for relying on a competent people for advice. Of course, we have seen the tax was escalating, and they are requesting, of course, there has been an exemptions that were mentioned there of the two first families. And now, is this a standalone issue or politicized issue?
Yes, though it's being politicized, and once the issues gets politicized, it loses value, it loses its meaning. It's very true, Beatrice, that for so long we have had very serious individuals in this country who have not been paying tax. The burden for paying taxes in this country has been on the common people. But the people who matter most, who call themselves who and who in this country, have not been paying taxes. They import, they run serious companies, but they don't pay taxes. So the move by the president to tax all and sundry is something that I personally support. I support that move. But it should not be politicized. It should not be politicized. Now, on the issue raised, if the president relied on incompetent people, I believe by the time president comes up and says it, he has information. He knows what he's talking about. A president, particularly our current president, who is well informed, cannot just stand and make a statement without any iota of information, serious information. He has this information. But the unfortunate thing is it's being politicized. Once it gets politicized, now it loses value. It loses value. Now it's routed into so many conspiracy theories. But I support the move for all people to pay taxes, and for Chungwa to ask for information. Yes, it is necessary. Asking for information doesn't mean that they relied on incompetent people. The information should be given. This information should be given so that the law is followed, other than making a move and thereafter we have court injunctions like this, which is very common in our country. Okay, so I believe president is well informed about this, and now others are the target people who feel targeted. Want to politicize this to make this thing look like it's not real or they're being targeted, so that they get sympathy from ordinary Kenyans. But all Kenyans must pay taxes because before the law we are all equal. Yes.
And now moving forward to the Star as well, let us take a look at stories making headlines in the Star as well. And of course in the Star where we see, why won't anyone take in my sweet black cat? That is a matters business, and do make sure to check on that as well. And we see saying bad blood, where retired president pulled out of the meeting after government reduced his delegation, and how Uhuru Ruto was a scuttled Qatar meeting. CS Mutua says it aborted because DRC was unavailable, and says he's dealing with busybodies. There has been an issue there that has been talking about, of course, the reducing of his delegation of the previous president, where we did see the security system being changed, and there was a lot of questions here and there, the timing, and of course they did come out and say it is constitutional, but it's constitutional. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, we should not rely at all on what is written in the newspaper, because too much propaganda may make us not to know the whole truth. Given the fact that we are having a strained relationship between these two people, the former president, the current president, this should not go to international platform of this kind, because once it goes there, international media will concentrate on these negativisms and affect our country's image. I wish that the issues concerning our local politics should just be maintained within to just be contained within, other than escalating to international platform of this kind. It's not really good for this country. It's not really good. And for the way I also see it, yes, it may be true. The local politics is affecting international duties of our president and the former president. It's affecting, and it will also affect the geopolitics of this region. I wish that they sit down and solve these conflicts that is being created because of politics. Because of politics, they should amicably solve these problems. If Raila Odinga and Uhuru had a handshake, it's also possible for Uhuru and Ruto to have handshake. It's also possible for Ruto and Raila Odinga to have handshake, so that we don't continue spoiling the image of this country. So I think that's the way to go, and I really humbly request our president to cool down the temperatures and reach out to Uhuru Kenyatta. But also, Uhuru Kenyatta should stop interfering with the current regime, because it's also being said that he's sponsoring Azimio to create chaos in this country. If he's doing that, it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, because if when he became president, if that could have also happened to him, he could have not been a happy person. So he should not do this. If it's true he's doing it, he should stop it, so that our country is united. He should be a uniting factor in this country. Because what will be the purpose of rushing to unite Congo and there's a disunity in this country? Will it make sense?
Sure.
It will not make sense. Let him unite his country so that he has free uneasiness in also uniting other African countries like DRC Congo and Ethiopia. Yes.
And now we have more to offer breast cancer services in all dispensaries. That is on Matters Health. Do make sure to dig in that as well. And Swikemani's widow, death of Lelyman is justice served. And we see Ruto troops want list of waivers since the handshake. That is, of course, we have seen in the previous newspapers as well. And you see busy day as new Form 1 students join secondary school. That, of course, we have also seen in the other previous newspapers as well. Now let's take a quick flip to the People's Daily and see what is making headlines in the People's Daily as well, where we can see Kenya Kwanza targets handshake tax waivers. Of course, we can go to the People's Daily and see what is making headlines there. To keep the comments coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa in all our social media handles. Of course, like I was saying, let us take a look at People's Daily and what is making headlines in People's Daily as well, where we see Kenya Kwanza targets handshake tax waivers, where we see House Majority Leader Ishungo asks Treasury for list of beneficiaries since 2018 as Raila criticizes planned new change. Now, Mr. Chapeza, what is the real issue here? Are we still dealing with what transpired in the August general election between the three consequential figures? Of course, that is the previous president, the now president, and now the opposition leader. Or have we moved on? What is happening?
On matters of NSF or where?
I'm asking about Kenya Kwanza, of course, targeting handshake tax waivers. We have the House Majority Leader Ishungo asking Treasury for list of beneficiaries since 2018. And as Raila criticizes planned law change, we're talking about these changes that are happening.
Beatrice, as I've said earlier, this thing has been politicized. I wish that we face this issue with sobriety, so that we get proper benefit of all Kenyans paying taxes. Ichungo asking for the beneficiaries. Let me hope it's not political. It's not political vigilance. It should be well-meaning. It should be well-meaning. Because if you go to people who have been evading taxes, there are so many, including some in Kenya Kwanza. Some in Kenya Kwanza. So they should be very, very careful, because it will affect all of them. This exposure will affect both Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, because majority of these people have not been paying taxes. The burden for paying taxes have been ordinary Kenyans. So when you start something, be very sure that you will handle it carefully, not to explode and cause division and disunity in this country. Yes.
And now moving to other headlines, so you can see top KNH doctors save conjoined twins after 15 hours in the theater. That is, of course, a medical milestone there, and you do expect to see a lot more happening in the medical field. And maybe what are your thoughts on this issue?
This one makes us to be proud of our doctors. If we have this kind of expertise in this country, then we have confidence in going to our local hospitals, other than always taking flights and spending a lot of money going for medical tourism in other countries. So this one is really a good thing to talk about. And also it restores confidence among the Kenyans towards their local hospitals. Yes.
And I will see workers firms to pay more for NSSF, where we see the retirement pain, where Court of Appeal paves way for Ruto government to raise monthly payments from 200 Kenya shillings to 2,000 in push to ramp up the saving for old age. And then this move will increase the cost of business and cut incomes. Of course, we see experts where we see a view there of an expert contract reviews. Many employers will not be able to meet that bill. They are burdened by a lot of increases in taxes, levies, and cost of living. What do you take that move?
Yes, as much as the move is good, but it will be affected by heavy taxation. Because when somebody is getting 10,000 B3s and he pays NSSF 2,000, he remains with the 10, right? With the 8, right? 8 is paying other taxes like pay as you earn, and so many other taxes. He's paying for NHIF. You realize that what he takes home is very, very little. Yeah? I wish that the government finds also a way of reducing taxes so that people can also pay for their social welfare or NSSF and NHIF, which are major. Because majority of people, particularly retirees, are dying quickly because of depression, because of stress. They are not earning anything. All the money that they have is being deducted. So after retiring, they don't earn anything. Or because of too much responsibility, everything taxed, so they live in hardship. So what's the need of living in hardship with the hope of living better in an uncertain future? So life should be made easy for all people who are working, and it should also be made much easier for the retirees, so that we don't overtax them to an extent that they fail to pay their NSSF, and again they deny themselves comfort life. They live in hardship for the sake of NSSF, because if they live in hardship right now, some of them will fall sick. Some of them will be depressed. And even by the time they retire, they'll be suffering already. It should not be that case.
And on that issue, we do have pointers there where they're saying 2,000 Kenya shillings minimum amount that every worker will pay for his retirement, up from 200 Kenya shillings. That is, of course, a big increment that is about like more times than the initial amount. And then another pointer there is saying 4 minimum number of Supreme Court judges needed to overturn ruling if appeal is filed. And of course, that is yet to happen. And another pointer there is saying 15 associations had challenged and the NSSF Act of 2013, and their case was thrown out yesterday. And of course, there has been a lot happening in there. Another pointer there is 2.9 million number of workers in the female employment by December 2021. They will pay new rates. And you see there 6% fraction of workers pay an employer will contribute to match each employee's contribution. And another point there is Kenyan shillings, 15,000 Kenyan shillings. Workers earning more than this will pay 6% of their salaries to their retirement fund. That is indeed very, very interesting. And this is an issue that is affecting everyone. Do make sure to dig in and see what is happening. What are your thoughts? Keep your comments coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa in all our social media handles. And now let us move to matters business and what is making headlines in the business world, where we see accepted exceptional performance from his senior executives and managers beneath them. That is, of course, Mike Eldon. Do make sure to read on that as well on page 9 and see what is happening on Matters Business Daily. And the biggest issue here is the mystery of missing 432 billion Kenya shillings China imports on KRA books, where we see trade data published by the country's tax authorities differ, where the variation cost are doubt on the taxes collected. Well, we see Chinese imports vulnerable imports valued at 431.9 billion for the first 10 months of last year are missing from official data reported by Kenya Revenue Authorities, raising concerns over the scale of tax evaded in the election year. An analysis of the official trade data published separately by two countries' tax authorities have revealed a wide disparity in the value of imports from the Asian economic giant. Official KRA data, as published by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, placed the value of importing from China at 337.5 billion Kenya shillings in the review period. That is indeed an issue that needs to be looked in, because this is matters big money there that is missing, and we do hope the law does take its course and see what is happening. And another headlines that did, of course, make headlines in the previous paper, they did talk about Facebook case that sets up multinationals for Kenyan lawsuits, where we see a judge yesterday ruled that social media giant Meta, the owner of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, can be sued locally, opening a new front for multinationals registered outside the country to face suits in Kenyan courts. That is, of course, a win-win for a situation that they can be ruled there as well. And the Treasury takes the biggest weekly overdraft since 2020, where they are saying the Treasury took an emergency facility of 30.2 billion Kenya shillings from Central Bank of Kenya last week, the biggest overdraft in a week in over 3 years, pointing to a biting cash flow pressures owing to tough economic environment. And of course, another headline is current account deficit falls as experts remittance rise, where we see Kenya's current account deficit to GDP for 2022 has come nearly percentage point lower than earlier projected by the Central Bank of Kenya, following better than expected performances. And the very, very last headline there, we can see bankruptcy applications declined to 5 years low. That is caused by Kefa Muiruri, where we can see bankruptcy applications in Kenya have dropped to 5-year low, indicating the reduced reliance on the processes as debt resolutions mechanism. Where we see data from Office of the Official Receiver, a Department of the Business Registration Services, shows that 16 bankruptcy applications were filed during the fiscal year ended, that is, of course, June 2022, down from 21 in the previous period as the country pulled out through the COVID-19 economic meltdown. And we see voluntary bankruptcy applications by debt-distressed individuals dropped to 11 from 21, while filing instigated through creditors' petitions short 5-0 in the previous period. To make sure to dig in matters business and see what is happening, there's a lot to see in terms of tax, in terms of what is happening. And of course, Mr. Pesa, if you'd like maybe to give your parting shot on the whole overview of this conversation that we have had.
Yes, let people pay taxes. All Kenyans are equal before the law. But paying taxes should not be vindictive, should not be as a matter of vengeance. It should be well-meaning, and it should be based on facts, not propaganda and politics. Secondly, education sector. They should mean it and reduce the burden on parents. So many pupils not afford education because it has become so expensive, and that will create inequality, and it will not go well. Some Kenyans should not be left behind because of their lackings. Thirdly, our government should move with speed and ensure that fertilizer reaches all farmers, because food production should be made a major necessity. And if the food production is cheaper, then it also creates abundance, because people shall produce more and shall have enough food, and we shall solve one major problem of malnutrition, which is a major cause of instability and chaos in this country. Expensive food being expensive. So with these three, I truly appreciate that the government works towards achieving this. Thank you so much, Beatrice.
And once again, thank you so much for joining me through this live broadcast. And I'm sure a lot of people have got to get an understanding of what is happening in the newspaper. And of course, it's always a pleasure to have you here with us. And we do look forward to having you here again. And of course, thank you for joining this live broadcast and tell us about the tax exemptions and what are your thoughts on no one should be exempted from paying taxes. Keep your SMSs coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa in all our social media handles. That marks the end of our morning extra segment today. My name is Beatrice Njeri, and have yourself a lovely day. Welcome to Mahanaim International High School. Are you worried about the character of your child? Mahanaim